What's really involved with building an online business? Can anyone do it? Can you do it? In this exclusive series of face-to-face interviews featuring successful online solopreneurs, you can now really discover the journey behind those success stories. Real people with real, financially successful online businesses. They've taken the plunge and either replaced or supplemented their day-to-day income from an everyday job with an online business. Hello, I'm Paul Buckingham, roving ambassador for Solo Build It. In this face-to-face interview, we talk with Richard Bergman, creator of DexGo.com. Richard creates outdoor timber products that aid home builders and renovators. It's now a multi-million-dollar business, and in this interview he shares how he went from complete non-existence and no sales in a home garage to distributing his own timber products across the United States of America.
By the time I left my job, I had a lot of revenue coming in, $400,000 or more, and it was only 2 people in the company full time, so I knew that, okay, we can pull this off. But yes, it was a very staged and thoughtful thing, and SBI made that possible. That's the whole thing.
You may have absolutely nothing in common with Richard except the passion to replace or supplement your day job income with an online business. If that's you, then there's plenty in Richard's story that's going to apply to you, and we'll find out exactly what right after this.
I started out as a carpenter as a young guy in high school. I was swinging a hammer since I was probably 10 years old with my dad. And my grandfather was a builder. So this was in my DNA, building. I just love building. I love creating things. And I put myself through high school and university doing this and had a great little company. And I developed all these skills. But I ended up getting into a different career. I went to law school. I won't get into all the details of that. But I ended up with this big kind of corporate job. And it was great. From the outside, you'd think it was great. I had a family, I had responsibilities, mortgage, all that. And I realized that, this was going to be a long grind. I could do this, but it never really was what I wanted to do. So I started thinking, just letting myself go in my thoughts. What do I like to do? I like to build these products. And I thought, well, even if I can only sell 10,000 of these a year, if I can make $10 per piece, that's an extra amount of money. And if that's all it ever does, is that enough for me? And the answer was, right. Of course. And so then the fear kicks in. It's like, well, what happens if it becomes really successful and I can't manage my day job? And I said to myself, a voice came over me and said, don't worry, that's the best problem you'll ever have. So at that point, I just said, the heck with this. I'm going to develop this product. I'm just going to do this. And that set me on this whole process to product develop, build prototypes, test them, and then worry about how I was going to create an online platform. And eventually it grew to the point where I could leave my job. But it didn't matter, you see, so I could keep my job, keep paying my mortgage. I wasn't going to risk my family and everything else like a lot of crazy people might want to do. And I would never recommend that. By the time I left my job, I had a lot of revenue coming in, $400,000 or more. And it was only 2 people in the company full time. So I knew that, okay, we can pull this off. But yes, it was a very staged and thoughtful thing. And SBI made that possible. That's the whole thing.
You were basically creating an online business in order to survive or to build an offline business. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. That's exactly it.
So why was it important for you to even have an online business? What was it that made that a relevant issue for you in the first place?
Having an online business was fundamental to me ever having an offline business, period. Because I knew that I could never escape the golden handcuffs. I could never break through the Earth's gravity and get into the stratosphere and the atmosphere and so on unless I had gas in the tank. And selling products myself was gas in the tank. And so to me, Every other worry was extraneous. The only focus was how on earth can I figure out how to build an online business to get selling my product and prove if it's going to work. I want to test this. I want to know that it's not pie in the sky. Do people want what I'm doing? Yes or no? I can handle it. I have thick skin. I know if it fails, oh well, it's another nick on my skin, another scar, So that was why I thought it was critical to have that online business.
Right. You sound a bit like a serial entrepreneur in a way, but when you first started, what was the product that was your first product, and why were you so convinced that it was going to make a difference?
The first product I developed was called the Titan Wood Post Anchor. And I called it the Titan because it looked like a T. I was looking at this thing and flipping it around and thought, it's like a T, and it's strong for its category, for its class. And it was designed to connect wood posts, probably for a wood guardrail or a balcony deck or something like that, to a horizontal surface. It could be a wood framed surface, or it could be a concrete surface or a stone surface. But most of the anchoring aspect of the tool was hidden inside the post. So I got rid of all that extraneous steel because people were telling me I don't like the look of these awful things that I see in the retail lumber stores, and I want something that's similar or stronger but has a very clean look. So I started thinking, what can I do to screwing a piece of steel onto the bottom of a post and just bolting it in isn't going to work because it rips apart. Can I add something in there that's going to give it a little bit more strength? And that first product was the one that I knew would work because while I was in this day job, I had actually been moonlighting. I had been building for people all the time on my days off. I never stopped working. And I was building projects for people, and they would say, Richard, can you make that, can you carry that railing over here off along this? I'm thinking, holy crow. To do that, I don't have access to the joist structure to side mount it. So what am I going to do? Also, in some places, it was very wet weather. And wood, when it's hidden in a dark joist bay and constantly wet, rots. So all of these reasons, I thought, the world needs this. And maybe I'm just high on my own Kool-Aid, but I think this will improve people's life. And I just thought, if I'm out $5,000 on this project, it's not the first time I've blown money trying to succeed. So I knew it was going to succeed. And that was the first product. And when I sold 1,000 of them, this was the key. I sold 1,000 of them within the first 2 months. I was shocked. I was like, okay, I've had so many failures. This is rocking. I can do this.
So you already had a product. When you first created it, had you tried selling it to, retail, real life stores?
No, I'd never tried selling it to a store. I didn't have the time. I was busy working 8-9 hours a day at a day job.
So you really kind of thought online is the only way for me to go. Is that correct?
Yeah, I knew it was the only way to go.
And the reason was?
The reason is that no big retailer is going to take me serious if I've never sold it and I can't prove to them that I have something they want. They want products that sell. I got it. Here's the proof. Let's do business. If not, fine, I'm happy. I'll keep making money and I don't need to be Bill Gates. I'm just happy with my life.
So basically, having an online business was going to be critical to the credibility of your product from a sales point of view, the marketing to be able to reach a large number of people, and also just the earning the right, saying to somebody like an outlet, hey, yeah, I've got this thing and it really is needed and wanted.
That's critical. I think if you're selling hard goods, I don't know how anyone else would do it. Now, I know I've seen other people do it the old school way, pre-internet, and it can still work, but it requires having very, very deep pockets, a benefactor who can keep funding you. And then each time you take funding, you lose a part of your company. I own this company lock, stock, and barrel. And if it that's good, but it's also bad. If it goes down, I go down with the ship. So, but I really would have it no other way. And I've been able to organically grow it, which is what an online selling process does. And if you're careful to keep the prices high enough to build lower pricing, then you never shut off the opportunity to sell to these other channels.
Great. So let's now look at where the online business with Solo Build It fitted into your scheme of things. You had a product, you knew that it was good, you knew that it was going to work, but you knew that you had to bypass the major stores and have your own distribution channel, basically. So now that you've got that kind of path in your mind, you're looking for an online environment to help you out. Did you look around? What was your journey to Solo Build It?
That's a great question. And I came to Solo Build It after having been through the gauntlet of trying other things. So for almost 2 or 3 years, I had been researching everything online. I had been taking courses. The first site I had prior to this was built with GoDaddy and a webmaster who charged me a fortune to build a site to sell a single product that was useless, quite frankly, and cost me a lot of money. But I did learn a little bit about how not to do it and why you need control over your own store, over your own site. Why you, if you're starting out, need to be able to publish your own pages and build the structure of your site around certain keywords. All of that became crystal clear to me when I read Ken's. So I had taken these other courses, not a ton of money, but enough to know that I was serious and I'm searching. And eventually I found through an affiliate that was promoting Ken eVoice, this is back in the days of affiliates, which is a while back, was promoting SBI to do just that. And when I looked at it, and then I got Ken's first ebook, I read it from cover to cover a couple of times, and I knew that this guy was the real deal. And I knew that because I had the scars. So like he would say certain things, I'm like, yep, that's right. And I knew, okay, I can do this. And why did I spend 15 grand with that webmaster that didn't even listen to all the things that I was telling him to do that Ken is now reinforcing and saying to me I should have been doing? So I had learned enough that I just was like, okay, I got to go dig into this. And that's what led me to SBI.
So this is really interesting because, you're in an environment of hard goods, where you've got a specific product that is being delivered by courier, not software. Yet the principles clearly are remaining the same to gain traffic, to get awareness on the internet, to get primary authority, that kind of thing. They're critical because all the rules are the same, no matter what the product is, hard good or soft good.
That's absolutely true. And I was always wondering, would people want to buy a building product, a hardware product online? And thankfully, the stars aligned because this particular product weighs all of 2 pounds, a single unit. And when I put the hardware in, maybe 2.5 pounds. And it could package tightly. And that was in the sweet spot for couriers like FedEx and UPS. Even postal systems would do that. And so that proved to me that, holy crow, I can actually sell a hard good like that to people that are early adopters, innovators. I can get testimonials from them. I can promote that, and I can use that then to seed lumberyards who are very conservative, who need to take on products they know are going to sell. Now that's a whole other side of the business that is incredibly hard. It takes a long, long time to make a physical channel profitable. And if you can go on for several years before you start to see profits in the online, the hard retail line. But I would say that the benefit to that is that it becomes like predictable annuities if you do it right and you help them succeed. It's a wonderful foundation that builds the growth of the company. But always the online is the front end of the wedge. It's where the ideas are. It's where you're testing new things. It's where people go to find things.
There are so many experts in the internet world and in the online sales world these days. They'll often say, well, all you need to do is to set up a Facebook page or a Shopify account with a free web page. And yet you've gone down the route of creating really a mega information site that supports your product and the credibility of your product. What's the difference between the two as you sort of stand on the outside?
That's a fantastic question. Because I have friends and family members who have built other products on their own, and it's a very tight product, and they've just built a Shopify store, and they've tried to pull some traffic in from Facebook with the targeted ads, and they have some success, but it's like a treadmill that you have to keep feeding. And so fortunately, and I give all this credit to Ken, because without it, I wouldn't be here. I just would not be here. He said from the very beginning, theme, and he still says it to this day, themes, broad enough that any product you develop fits under that umbrella. You could make your umbrella small if you want, sure, but then remember that smaller umbrella only covers so much area from the rain. So that's your zone. If you have a fairly broad umbrella, you have more room to work with. I'm working within that whole protected area under my umbrella, which is deck building, outdoor living. Now I came up with one product that fits into that beautifully, but I can write endlessly on this stuff because I love it. And I'm constantly in this milieu. I'm a student. I'm an enthusiast of this particular topic. And that's where SBI shines. If you try to do it the traditional way and just buy yourself a Shopify site, I'm sure you'll sell some product. It's a fantastic software. I use Shopify. But if you don't have the free traffic that comes with all of the thousands of pages that you can write on and not have to rely on being number one in the top 10 anymore, because for me, it's tough to be in the top 10. You've got big brands that are basically bullying their way to the top, and it's hard. But if you have lots of pages, lots of long tail keywords, you can generate thousands of visitors a day. And that's their in. And then you can develop a program to get their email and communicate. And that's more work. Yes, it's more work, not easy, but that's your in. It's a competitive world, but this is the way an average person holding a day job can do it. And it's working.
So Richard, you've started out with an idea, you've built the prototypes, you've got the idea that this is something that's going to be wanted. You've begun your online business with Solo Build It. At what point did you suddenly go with the online business, this is going to work? I actually think this is going to work.
And that was an exciting day. That was a very exciting day. So that day, I could take you back. That was somewhere around 2007 or 2008. Actually, I was in my basement, and I remember putting up the first ad on my original site, and literally the next day I had my first sale, and I thought, wow, that was amazing. Gee, that was quick. And then there was a little bit of a delay, because it was February, right, middle of the winter. But by March 1st, between March 1st and March 30th, I was getting orders every day, and I was starting to realize that I'm moving through this inventory. I was going to the post office every day, then I was going to FedEx every day. Within 2 months, I had sold everything. So I remember that feeling right off the bat. I'm like, wow, I'm not going to lose my shirt. Oh, happy day. That was it. And it was quite an exciting moment because I had all this inventory sitting in my basement. I had ordered this stuff. I had made the first orders in China. I had bought thousands of them in a container, a couple pallets worth for anyway. But I had to go to the dock. These rough and tough tumble guys. I had to go down aisle 22, left on T4. The maze of a dock. Load up my pickup truck and drive down the highway. And I was so loaded. I was with my truck. I had product beside me. If the police stopped me, I would have been fined for sure. The suspension was down to basically the bottom. And I made it home and thought, okay, well, did that. Now let's see if we can sell it. And when I first sold that first product, I thought, okay, relief. So yeah, it took like 2 months to sell that entire inventory. And at that point, I was like, okay, let's do this. This can work.
That's very exciting, and it's pivotal really to the story because it was proof of concept, both in terms of a successful online business with Solo Build It, but also, of course, your own product as well. So everything all combined at once to work.
Well, there's one other thing I should add to that too, Paul, that precedes that, that's really pivotal in my life. And that is when I was developing the prototype. I'd made so many of these prototypes, and I hadn't even, the site was up and getting traffic, but I hadn't yet finished the product. And I thought that I had done it right. I bought 3,000 of this particular product, which cost me a lot of money. And then I went to install it, and it was absolutely useless. And I just this pain inside me. I thought, oh, I'm trying so hard to make this business work. I'm trying so hard to actually do what I want to do in my life. And this was like a kicker, the wind knocked out of me. So I took all that material, put it in the back of my truck, turned on the stereo, and I'm driving towards the landfill, the dump. I get to the dump, back it up, and I just start throwing this stuff into the wind, dumping it all, and I'm saying a bunch of words under my mouth. And then I thought, I remembered something my dad told me when I was a kid, and I was in the championships for it was a provincial championship for 400 meters, and I was underage. I was, I think, 10 or 11 running against 13-year-olds because of my birthday. And I was in the final, and I came 8th out of these 8 guys, and I was in the staggered lane way out in front. And I sprinted like a maniac thinking I was going to win. I got to the 300-meter mark. Everyone caught up, and I couldn't even finish. And of course, I ran faster than I ever had, but I ended up last. I was going to cry, as a little kid. And I remember my dad saying, don't ever quit. Don't ever quit. Cross that line. If you get in the habit of quitting, it's going to get easier and easier and easier. Don't quit. And I could see, he told me like he was, urging me on, and I just forced myself across the line. So that moment reflected in front of me. I thought, you know what? I'm close. I'm really close. I now know. I just tossed it all away, all that money. I thought, I know what's going to make it work now. And that change, I drove home and I was happy actually. And I just said, what the heck? Let's do this. I spent a little bit more money, made some more prototypes. Long story short, it worked. And I still have it today. To this day, that change that I made because of that moment is still in place. And I was able to build, the right product from that one moment. It's pretty important.
It's a pretty pivotal lesson also in relation to somebody building an online site that's looking at this right now and going, it would be easy to give up when you have had a failure, perhaps with another service that doesn't provide the context that Solo Build It provides. Like, don't give up, take it as a learning and move on to the next step.
For sure. You gotta get some thick skin and not be too disappointed from previous mistakes. And I would tell people, take it from me, Solo Build It has everything that you need to make this a success. And if it's not, you're going to see it because Ken takes you through those strategies of determining whether your niche is any good or not. And it's clear. That's another thing. Get the confidence. Don't start writing about butterflies or something if nobody's interested in butterflies. And so I really think that the chances of failing, you have exponentially reduced the chances of failing with Solo Build It. Absolutely. And I'm proof positive of that and have done it the other way. So that's what I would tell people.
So Richard, everyone is always interested in about how much money they're going to make from their online business, and when will it start making money? You had a product, you had a path that you wanted to follow in order to be able to promote and sell that product. But did you ever look at any other products, for example, affiliate marketing, that sort of thing, or even other hard goods for that matter?
Well, I never really got into affiliate income, promoting other people's sites and things like that. I know in the early days you could make some money if you could send someone to a site and they bought something there, but the commissions for hard goods was incredibly low. I even tried it for software and it was incredibly low. And then what happens is there's a battle for someone to try to create the best list site. And then you can see that it's a never-ending game. And I never ever made any significant effort to do that. I was lucky that my income was coming specifically from my product. And I know that if I made $10 or $15 per product, that's stable. And I know that if I sell 10,000 of them, well, I'm going to make $150,000 profit. And so it's, for me, I guess that helped me, in the sense that, because some of these trends have come and gone, right? But if people are buying a product, if it's a real product, and I would suppose it would apply if it was software too, that could be a product, right? That's more stable because you own it. So you own your traffic and you own your product. And for me, that was I just felt more secure than getting married to some kind of new trend that I didn't really know. Like, Google, tried Google Ads and things like that on our site. We used to get some money from that, but that's been so diluted, it's just not worth it. And so from my perspective, I'm always going to tell people that I like selling something that I own. And it's not that it can't be done other ways. There's people that are far smarter than I am on other means of monetizing their site. But for me, just knowing I'm selling a widget and I'm making it at a certain price, it's very, very predictable. That's what I liked.
Right. So, the widget is there. Are you able to quantify it in terms of dollar terms? Is that something you're comfortable doing, like the impact it's had for turnover now?
Millions of dollars. How's that?
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So you basically have a legitimate long-term business, all centered around your successful online business.
Look, I'm in this office now. Okay, it took me 8 years to get into this office. There's air conditioning here. Wow, air conditioning. But I'll tell you what, for the first 6 years, for the first 2 years, I was in a basement of my house. My garage was packed. I couldn't use it. It was my inventory. The neighbors would complain because I'd have 18 wheelers arriving and I didn't have a forklift. I was the forklift. So I would give the guy a cup of coffee and I'd say, hey, 45 minutes, an hour, give him the paper. And I would physically hand bomb stuff off of a truck and leave it on my driveway, race off to work. So then we moved into my first warehouse, which was 1,000 square feet down, 1,000 square feet up. I had no room for anything in there, and it was so hot up there in the summertime. I mean, you could be sitting in a pair of shorts, a pair of shorts and a headband, sweatband on your head. That's what you'd need. It was so hot. So we've been able to grow this company to the point now I have like 6 or 7 regular full-time people, plus part-timers coming in. And we moved to a bigger facility. It's 6,000 square feet, and then I have off-site storage. So I need an even bigger place. But it's all been very, very conservatively done. Very, very conservative. I mean, I'm very cautious before I ever leap. I want to make sure that I am in a position of pain staying where I'm at, and it can't be done anymore. Now I'm ready to make that leap, because then your costs are up, and then your profitability goes down for a while. But you now have the assets, you can grow again. So yes, this is real. Like, this is tangible, real, and it came from Solo Build It. So what can I say?
So looking at the last year, do you mind sharing how much traffic that you're getting, say, per day or per month?
Sure. It varies, obviously, through seasonality, and it's mostly the Northern Hemisphere. Although, the Southern Hemisphere, I would say Australia is probably our third biggest visitor group, but it's primarily the US, Canada, and England. Those are our primary drivers. And when we're in the summer months, well, let's say spring to fall, we're anywhere from 3,500 to 5,000 visitors a day. And then in the winter months, probably around 2,000 a day, 1,500 to 2,000 a day.
The thing about that amount of traffic is that it's a really good indicator that you don't necessarily need a lot of traffic in order to have a successful, profitable online business with Solo Build It. Because basically you're talking about a dedicated, committed audience that is specifically interested in your subject.
Yeah, that's right. And the narrower, in fact, I would say that you probably don't want too much of a shotgun approach, because when you're communicating with these people, they may not really be interested in what it is that you have to offer. I would rather have 150,000 people in a month that are actively involved in the planning of remodeling their backyard and building something than 500,000 that maybe want to build a new bathroom. Well, that's not going to help me. I need the outdoor people, and the tighter it is, the tighter that niche, I think the better the quality of your visitors are, and you can succeed with those lower numbers because the traffic is free. That's very important.
Free indeed it is. So those people that are visiting the site, do they then, what's the communication process that you have with them? Do you have a newsletter? Do you have free giveaways? What happens?
Okay. We have prominently positioned on our homepage free deck plans, which I invested a lot of money in getting dozens and dozens of these plans written up by an architect that are code compliant, and we give them away. Now that means as the market matures, I'm having to invest more money into my company to have offers for people. But this is a great offer. So we offer that, and then we offer tips, and then we offer videos. And from there, they can trickle through. Now, we're in the process of completely rethinking the whole homepage for a couple of reasons, but that's what it's been for the last couple of years. And with the free plans, we know that we get their email, and then we can communicate through them with our CRM system. And we have a funnel, a sales funnel that measures their interest level and provides them offers. And it's a very sophisticated system, which we know what the conversion rates are. So now what we're doing is we're starting to use some other means of funneling paid traffic through that because we know what the conversion rate is. So you have to watch that carefully. But that's how our homepage works. We're trying very hard to find the key things, say 3 things that matter most when you land on that homepage, and make sure that they're the most visible. And then from there, easy access to every other type of content. It's an ongoing thing that we're constantly trying to improve.
So for somebody that, say, downloads a deck plan, are they giving away their name and their email address? Is that the price?
Yes, exactly. And then they'll get that, and we have a funnel that follows them after that. So we often can sell a product to them immediately at a low price, a very low price that would enhance the value of that plan. And from there, we know that they're really interested. Now we can try a little bit more expensive products that might really build that project out for them. So it starts with the free plan. But we also have on the right-hand column other lead magnets that we give away. Ebooks. You give us an ebook that's really valuable on how to use a specific product that shows you how to build a certain type of project. It's Rich's top ultimate tips from the job site. I give that away to you, and then I mark it to you. But now we've kind of shaken hands. It's like, hey, trust me. I won't guide you wrong here. And this is a great little book. It's 50 pages, total illustrations, all the things I've learned that you can avoid making those mistakes when you use our products. So that's another great thing. Lead magnets, they're ebooks and things like that.
Right. Any other sources of new relationship or developing relationships?
Well, we are doing we're doing other forms of social media. Instagram is working well for us. Pinterest is working well for us, where we show images on Pinterest, but there's a call out to an ebook that will allow you to make that deck that's in the image, that's the picture. So that's working well. What else have we done? Online, we're pretty much our own entity, because there are other companies that are competing with us, but we often partner up with other products that we see that I don't make, I have no intention of making, but someone would probably like it. And so what I'll say is, hey, John, you make this great widget. It's fantastic. Listen, I do every Saturday morning a tutorial video on how to use these products. I'd love to show people how to use your product. And would you drop ship it from your location if I can get you some sales? No, I don't want to make any more money. They never say that. They always say, absolutely, absolutely. So they send me some free samples and I look at it. I go, you know what? This is a great product. And then I tell people on my email list. And then I say, hey, check this video. Watch me as I show you how this would work, and maybe it's for you. And we even had on the Rachel Ray show a couple years ago, one of the people at the Rachel Ray, it's like a midday TV show here in North America, and lots of people watch it, and it was all these people talking, how can I regenerate or improve and fix up these old worn steps, these old wooden stairs on my outdoor deck, and we found this product, and then they did a whole thing on it. So that was pretty exciting. It took like 8 years to get that. That's a great little link. That's a real hard link to get.
It's interesting because, this whole conversation is going back to the purpose of your online business with Solo Build It, which was to gain credibility. And and to bypass the big outlets. You've basically done that by that kind of experience. Yes, it takes time, but geo whiz, you've built the credibility, and look at the difference.
We're just continuing to really, really build a really cool ecosystem. Once you come into our world, it's all there. That's our goal. And the entry points can be many. Once you're in, you never want to leave. That's the goal.
I want to come back particularly, in a sense, away from the business and your Solo Build It experience. Come back to the Solo Build It experience, because really, in a way, it's provided the context for the success of your business. So I don't want to take anything away from your creativity and I think probably your genius, but what it does is it provides a context. And this is true for just about anybody that wants to build an online business, whether it's macrame or chickens or, life goals, whatever it might be. What I'd like to know is what is it that Solo Build It has really meant for you, apart from those key fundamental things that you talked about Ken saying way back in the early days?
Solo Build It has eliminated the noise. I would say, first off, it allows you, even if you have no experience, to follow a very simple process, very simple steps, and not have to be a technical wizard to build your site. You can get the essentials done, and a lot of the things behind the scenes, like pinging a search engine, when to spider it, how to create an XML file and all this stuff. I mean, it's at the point now, it has become exponentially more complicated behind the scenes, but Solo Build It is as simple as it's ever been. See, that's the important thing. And so the principles are still the same. The things have evolved and gotten better in terms of the way you can build pages and all the things that are the communications and things going on behind the scenes. That's all gotten more complicated, but I don't see any of that. I just have to focus on a few things. And now I can hire people to do that for me, because now I do not have the time anymore. But I understand it, and I say, listen, to my employee, just go through the guide, take the 10-day guide or whatever it is. When you're done that, then we'll talk. And they understand. Of course, oftentimes they're already well versed in other CRM system, content management systems like Joomla, Drupal, WordPress, and all these other things. So it's really fast for them to figure out. And if you're a newbie, a neophyte, you will find that you can build a site on your own without having to literally ever having to know any of this stuff.
Richard, you've talked a lot about the fact that the site was theme focused, so it had an overall big picture, but that the pages and the content that you were writing were very specific. Did you have an extensive use of Brainstorm It in order to find the right keywords for the right pages?
Brainstormer is critical for that. It was the first thing I ever used, and it still is one of the best, most powerful tools there are, bar none. That thing's worth its weight in gold. In fact, I would say if you didn't have that, it would seriously deflate the value of Solo Build It, because that basically is your roadmap. And it's still the same roadmap today. Like it's like I said, there's more competitors, and it's getting bumpier, and there's more clashing to fight for those top 10 rankings. But what it does is it allows you to know if people are looking for the kinds of things you like to discuss. As a starting point, Brainstormer has it all there. It is the critical tool that we used from day one, and we still use today when we're starting to build new threads of topics that we want to build. We look at that and we say, what's the pinnacle? And if we write that, What can we build under it that logically flows from it? And you get all that with Brainstorm. It's an amazing tool.
Yeah. Did you, when you were first building the site, did you follow the action guide?
I followed the action guide. Absolutely. I followed it to a T, and I just did the very best I could to do everything that they said. And in fact, if I look at it today, it's still the original skeleton. Now, if I've made some errors, those errors in structure, those errors would still be there. But I think that it was generally spot on. That guide is invaluable. That's another thing. So, you go to GoDaddy and you're just going to get a website for $9.99 or something like that. If you haven't done this kind of research, you're spending as much time building this massive entity that is pointing off nowhere, as opposed to spending that same time and pointing it right on the money. So that, if anyone's listening to this, I would say that's really important. Make sure it takes as much time to build something that's going to be a loser as it is to be a winner. So focus on the target, and then just follow that plan, and you will end up with something that's functional, that is a foundation that you can build upon. You can build a wonderful, huge, organization upon that basic structure.
On that note, this is a great point to end the interview. Richard, that has been an incredible insight into the growth of a hard goods business, the hard way, and perhaps even also the easy way, because of the things that you learned to make life easier. Thanks very much for your time. I'm sure everyone will totally love it.
I really appreciate it, and I hope this discussion helps anyone that's up and coming and really wants to be all that they can do. I really hope it helps them.